Today's episode of Because Science is sponsored by Birth of the Dragon. Birth of the Dragon hits theaters everywhere August 25th. What is the most famous martial arts move? In terms of sheer popularity, I'd argue that it is the 1-inch punch. And I think it's so popular because it looks impossible, like it's generating too much force for how much space it has to do so. But it's not impossible, it's not magic, it's not chi, it's physics. The story goes that the West was introduced to the 1-inch punch through a demonstration by the Dragon himself at the Long Beach International Karate Championships in 1964. And as you can see dramatized in the upcoming movie Birth of the Dragon, it hits confusingly hard. Here's one slowed down. It's a legitimately wow move, so how does it work? The martial artist was obviously in fantastic shape, but with only 1 inch to work with, it looks like all that power we see in the demonstrations has to come from somewhere other than just arm muscles. And it does. Martial artists call this kinetic linking, but a physicist looking at the 1-inch punch would call it kinematic chains. Wait. That is 3 inches. Should we tell someone? A kinematic chain is an assembly of rigid bodies connected by joints in some way. Now think of the entire human body as an assembly of kinematic chains. What the Dragon did, and what all good martial artists do, is punch with more than just their fist. It starts at the ground, translating motion in feet and thighs into the torso, into the arms, and then all the way to the end point, the final punch. In this way, they punch with more kinetic energy than the fist would have otherwise. How much kinetic energy a fist has upon impact will determine the impact force. Energy and force are often used interchangeably when talking about fight physics, but they are not the same thing. Let's start with work. Work is some force applied over some distance. Now let's add in Newton's second law that says force is equal to mass times acceleration. Now let's add in one of the kinematic equations of motion. Remember those chains? And finally, we expand the expression. Since work is also a change in kinetic energy, you have to apply a force over some distance to make something move, we end up with the equation for kinetic energy, if the object starts at rest. So the faster I move my mass, the more kinetic energy it gets. Now that we know how the equation for kinetic energy works, we can explain where all the power behind a 1-inch punch comes from. Looking back at the equation for kinetic energy, we can see that an object's velocity can be much more important than its mass because it's a squared value. Secondly, we can see that force and energy are related, but not interchangeable. It depends on how you apply that. Wait. It depends on how you apply that energy. I said wait. Rearranging values again in this equation, we can see that the more distance the change in energy occurs over, the less force is imparted. This is exactly why cars have crumple zones. The further the crumple goes, the less force is applied to you, and that's good. That's why to perform a successful 1-inch punch, you want to do the exact opposite and bring all the kinetic energy that's in a fist to a stop in a short distance. Look at how short of a distance this fist covers before the punch is over. That increases the force. Another way to interpret this relationship is a change in momentum, which is mass times velocity, over time. If you bring all the momentum of a fist to a stop in as short amount of time as possible, the force goes up. I think this makes more intuitive sense. The faster you hit, the harder you hit, and Lee emphasized incredible speed in his fighting style. He was so fast that some trained martial artists couldn't even block his punches.
What happened?
This is how a 1-inch punch can impart so much force, by expertly minimizing either distance covered or time elapsed. But that's not everything behind the punch. Lee wasn't a big dude. He was my size, but apparently he hit like a big dude. That's because in both momentum and kinetic energy equations, velocity is critical. And since I can't change the mass of my fist, if I hit as quickly as possible, I can hit like a guy twice my size. Form is a factor too. If you didn't have the concentration, training, and focus to perfectly align your kinematic chains, force is going to be lost. With perfect form, you are minimizing the distance and time it takes to finish a punch, thereby increasing the force. But if your form is even just a little bit off, you will increase the time and the distance it takes to finish the punch and become like a car's crumple zone, lowering the force. The final component of a 1-inch punch is psychology. Look, when you're being punched by the most famous martial artist in the world, or who would become the most famous, you're gonna sell it a bit. There's no way this guy is actually getting punched across the room. Reputation has something to do with it, and that's kind of cool. So why is the 1-inch punch so powerful? Well, it minimizes impact distance and impact time, it takes advantage of body positioning and kinematic chains, and it has a reputation behind it. It's never gonna be as forceful as a giant haymaker thrown by a giant fighter because physics, but when performed by a master, it's an incredibly efficient way to produce a surprising amount of force across almost no distance in almost no time. Because science. Dude, that was more than 1 inch. Oh. Thank you so much for watching, Joe. If you want even more silliness, check out my new show with Dan Casey, my colleague, where we get very silly about a very serious man called Squatch. And if you want even more science, but a little bit more premium, check out my show, The Space Program, on projectalpha.com. If you subscribe to that, you can get that show and this show 2 days earlier than you otherwise would. Thanks for watching. I already said that. Thank you, though. And thanks again to Birth of the Dragon for sponsoring today's episode. The movie is inspired by true events. To see the 1-inch punch on the big screen, check out Birth of the Dragon in theaters August 25th. No cameras, no rules, no limits. Come on. It might fly out of your hands and hit you right in the eye. Okay, hold it, come closer. All right, 1-inch punch. Using everything that we just-
rolling?
Yes,
Okay.
Everything that we just learned. Kinetic. Come on. Ooh. Come on, one more time. Forget it. He's too good, can't do it. Okay, now hold it. Hold this.
No, this is gonna hurt.
It's not gonna hurt. Why would it hurt? It's styrofoam. All right, everything we just learned. Okay. See, we got the distance. Hold it with both. Hey, hold it. Put your hands up. Okay.
I'm scared your knuckles are gonna hit my knuckles.
Yeah. So you extend your fingers. That's the you have this distance. So
for force?
Yeah. So you have,
Just as that, like that?
yeah. Stay away from my styrofoam. You hurt my knuckle.
Sorry.
Get out of here!